Hello everybody. Today I took the Vineland 3. I was able to take this via the Q Global platform. And basically what it is it measures the ability to be able to do things in your daily life. It measures on, it compares you to a normative set of peers on how you can communicate with people, how you can take care of yourself, how you can take care of the house, how you can socialize. So it's a good scale for measuring autism, the severity of autism. And I wanted to be able to take this assessment because I wanted to figure out whether I truly was in that level 1 or level 2 category of autism spectrum disorder. And I thought for a long time on the questions that I was presented, and came up with like numerous examples in my head. So I do think that this is a very good overall representation of where I am kind of functioning compared to my peers. And let's just say the results are not great. Not in the sense that I'm more impaired than I originally ever thought I was. I'm going to go over some reasonings as to why the scores are the way they are. But generally, yeah, I think this would really strongly fit that level 2 autism spectrum disorder that I was talking about. The idea that maybe, I'm not so high functioning after all, even though I can speak well. So let's begin. We're going to begin with kind of the appetizers, and then we'll go into the full composite score. So we'll start off with like each of the 9 sections. There were 10 for me, but there are 9 sections related to the assessment itself, and 10 is like additional behaviors and stuff like that. So let's see here. Let's see. So the communication domain. So receptive, which is the ability to measure, to listen and understand. So like paying attention, following instructions, things like that. I got a V-scale score of 72. Of 12. V-scale score 12, which is 1 standard deviation below the mean. But it says that my receptive ability, so equivalent to age in years and months, right? So this is like, for example, IQ, they'll say this person has the intellect of a 12-year-old, or this person's ahead. This is the same thing, but this is not IQ. Remember that. There are people that are very, very bright that score very low on these scales. I'm going to be one of them today. So on the receptive portion, I'm being able to listen and understand people and kind of keep track on conversations. I actually have quite a bit of difficulty doing this. I scored 5 years and 3 months. It means that I'm equivalent to a 5-year-old in trying to understand. Now keep in mind, this is not text chat, right? I'm able to do intellectual discussions and able to intellectualize with people, sometimes on voice chat, but even more on text chat because I'm not having to jumble a bunch of words in my brain. And autism spectrum disorder has really disrupted that for me, even though I have a high degree of intellectual giftedness. So yes, I scored 5 years and 3 months old, which is, I don't know, a preschooler? An elementary schooler? I know the Sword Fights in the Heights Legends trolls are going to rip on me, and I can't wait for it, because honestly, I don't give a shit what they say. They actually entertain me. So yes, 5 years and 3 months old, which for 1 standard deviation, I mean, that's not super low, so I'm a little surprised. For the expressive, the expressive is the ability to speak and use words. So I scored age 17. I personally feel like it's a little bit lower because there weren't enough questions asking me about the flow of my speech. Like if you watch my videos, you'll see that I'm speaking in full sentences, but you can tell that the flow of it compared to the average person, or kind of the words that I use, it's disrupted, like quite significantly. If you ever watch any of my videos, including this one. So I personally believe this to be an overestimation. It says that I'm age equivalent is 17 years. I'm 21 and 2 months. So about a 4-year delay there. And then written was my strongest. I got a 15 on that, and I scored age 17 years and 9 months, which is almost where I should be. That's almost a healthy functioning adult. Now, it's what's interesting is it says that I likely have advanced vocabulary and reading comprehension, which is common in twice exceptional autism. I do have twice exceptionality. So, yeah, for the communication domain, I scored an 86. So if you know IQ, the mean is 100, the standard deviation is 15. This is the same. So this would be like scoring an 86 IQ, except it's not IQ. It's not related to IQ. It's related to functioning. I scored an 86 in communication. I would say it's probably a bit lower because it didn't ask me a lot about the way that I use speech. So it would say things like, can you use because in a sentence, right? But it doesn't ask, like, is there clear disturbances in the speech? Because with me, you can tell compared to somebody else that there definitely is. So I scored an 86 on that. I personally believe it's a bit lower. And that was actually my highest category. I know, that's shocking, right? So the next one is the daily living skills domain. So the 3 domains here, let's start off with personal. So personal is like self-care. It's like eating, dressing, hygiene, taking medicine. And I scored a V-scale score, which has a mean of 10 and a standard deviation. I scored a 12. Now, that's 1 standard deviation below the mean. And so I have a self-care age equivalent of somebody that's exactly 14 years old, just turned 14 years old, which I find to be true. I mean, I'm moderately delayed, and I shower every day, right? I'm not a Redditor, but I do find it hard sometimes to kind of brush my teeth or take my medicine on time or things of that sort. So some mild to moderate, probably more moderate problems, and depression and all the other things don't help either. So yeah, we're going to keep that at around 14 years old. That's what the age equivalent says, 14 years, 0 months. Now this is where it gets tragic, folks. So domestic, this is household chores. Now I'm extremely bad at household chores. My old roommates hated me because I would never be able to have the ability to get up and clean and stuff like that without having a lot of fear that I would do something wrong or a lot of misdirection, like I wouldn't be able to clean properly. So I'm able to do it, and once I learn, I'm really fast at doing it, right? Because remember, I'm gifted. I don't have intellectual disability, and this is not an IQ scale, right? There are plenty of people that score very superior on the bell curve, but in like the WAIS or the WISC, but they score extremely low. I'm one of them, okay? So this is just how it is. And I never really reflected, because I always talk about my IQ. My IQ is exceptional, but I never realized the other side, which is my disability, and how impairing that also is. And this has given me a lot of time to reflect. So my old dorm mates hated me. They hated me because I wouldn't be able to clean the dorm rooms effectively. Things would get dirty. Things would get scummy. I do try to take better care. I mean, I'm not a Redditor. My room is not like a Twitch streamer from 2005, where they never clean up. It's not like Asmongold's room. It's pretty nice in here. But I'm not that great at taking care of the house. So my age equivalent would be scoring that of an 8-year-old, 8 years and 3 months. That's what I got. And then community, it measures functioning outside of the home. So using money, understanding time, using a phone and computer, and safety. This was my highest category. and I would say it's a bit lower than this. So the reason why it's a bit lower is because it asks me whether I can use everything, right? If I'm able to walk independently in an airport, or I'm able to use the phone. And the answers were usually or often, sometimes, or never. In my case, it's usually or often, sure, but there's significant distress in doing so, and there are problems that are not measured on the test. So, am I able to, navigate an airport? Sure, but I become really distressed and I can become really confused in specific moments and can wander somewhere. Or maybe I don't pay for that train ticket in Dallas-Fort Worth like I almost did and I get in trouble. I don't know which ticket to select, So I scored 20 years in that. That's my oldest. My oldest age equivalent, with just 1 year younger than I am. I'm age 21. I scored 20 years old in community. So being able to, function outside and hold a job and things like that, as I was explaining. But it's still very impairing, right? It's still very impairing. It's not easy for me at all. And this is what I would explain to mental health providers, is that just because I score high in some of these categories, I'm more impaired than the test says. So again, I would rank community a little bit lower than where it's at now, although I am able to do things that are very complex. And this is good news for the Appalachian Trail. This is actually really good news because I'm near able to function outside in the world and navigate the world on my own. So 20 years old, that's probably proficient to be able to do the trail, right? Which is why I have a really weird profile. Now, for the composite for daily living skills, which is the 3 that I just went over, personal, domestic, and community, I scored a standard score of 75. Now, think of it in terms of IQ. That would be a 75 IQ, right? So, mean 100, standard deviation 15, this would be a 75. So this would be quite low on the bell curve. And this test also measures people that have very superior functioning. Now, that doesn't mean they have very superior intelligence, but gifted individuals can obviously be very superior in intelligence. Remember, this is not intelligence, right? Although the two definitely have a link, right? For sure. But this measures like ability up to 145 standard scores. So somebody could have a very superior lifestyle, very superior taking care of things of that sort, taking care of themselves, taking care of the house, paying bills on time. They can be very superior in those skills. I just happen to be on the very left side of the bell curve, which is the very low side. So I scored a 75, which ranks me at the 5th percentile. In communication, I scored the 18th percentile. So I'm in the bottom 20% for communication, and I'm worse at daily living skills than 19 out of 20 Americans, because it was a U.S. norm sample, my age. Bottom 5%. The worst scale is yet to come, though, and that's the last scale, the socialization scale. So this is interpersonal relationships. Play and leisure, in this case it would be like playing Roblox with my friends, or eating out at dinner, and then coping skills, right? And I'm notoriously bad at coping skills. So let's begin with interpersonal relationships. So, interpersonal relationships, I scored a V-scale score of 9, which is 2 standard deviations below the mean. It means that when it comes to interpersonal relationships, I'm worse at managing them than, or in terms of conversational skills, social cues, things like that. I am in the bottom 2% of the general population. So my age equivalent for this, ready for this? Oh, you're gonna love this. This is gonna become like the next Sword Fights on the Heights meme right here. My age equivalent for interpersonal relationships is 3 years and 2 months. I am not kidding when I say that. I am literally, I might as well be a toddler before preschool. Like, it's so absolutely bad. And the thing is, I actually do feel that impaired. Like, I legitimately do feel that impaired. Because when you think of a 3-year, 2-month-old, right, they can't communicate like this, obviously, right? They can't say basic words. But they're not able to understand what's right and wrong. And that's kind of what this is measuring. And they're not able to read adults. I would say I'm probably a bit older than 3 years and 2 months in terms of maturity in interpersonal relationships. Maybe elementary. It seems a little low. But I can definitely understand being kind of in the young child range for, in terms of compared to other peers being significantly below the average in kind of interpersonal relationships. It's a train wreck for me. It's an absolute train wreck. Anybody that's known me long enough can tell you that. So next is play and leisure. So this would be like playing Roblox with friends, right? And it asks me some questions about my childhood and playing with other, friends, like make believe, right? Like, just pretend, basically. Hold on here, just give me a second. Yeah. So, basically, it's, they kind of asked me some questions about that, and then they asked me, like, some questions about my adult life, like, do you go out and have food with people and communicate with people by eating out and things like that. I scored a little bit higher on the age equivalent. I scored 7 years and 9 months, so I'm equivalent to about a 7-year-old in terms of play and leisure. I don't really know why for that one. I think it's because I rarely kind of organize things with friends. Because I think this is a little bit underestimative because it never asked me how much distress I had organizing activities. It asked me how often did I do it? And what I said is I don't do it often. I don't really organize things often or invite people out for lunch or dinner often because it's just it's stressful for me, basically. But it's not that I can't do it. So perhaps on this category, it should be more like the teenage years, maybe at least double digits in terms of age equivalent, because it never asked me, because I'm capable. I mean, I even set up a Mensa event. Like, I even organized a Mensa event, right, to get people together. It's like, if I'm able to do that, then I must be a little bit higher in play and leisure than 7 years and 9 months. So if you ask me, that's a bit of an underestimate compared to some of the other scales that we've seen that are kind of an overestimate, in my opinion. And then coping skills. This I have to agree with. So my V-scale score was 9, which is 2 standard deviations below the mean, and my age equivalent is 4 years and 2 months. I have to agree with that, because I literally, when I got a brain scan at 3, my brain is, in a way, it's kind of, it's fucked up. It's prone to get very anxious, very worried, very depressed. Once there's something negative on my mind, I can't get my mind off of it, and so it leads to things like suicidality or complete tantrums or whatever. So we're talking about autistic meltdowns a bit, but we're also talking about other psychiatric disorders that may make the meltdowns worse. I would say my prefrontal cortex, which is the ability to make rational decisions, is significantly impaired. So yeah, I scored 4 years and 2 months on that. So my coping skills are equivalent to, I guess, according to the Vinland 3, a 4-year-old. So, voila, I guess I can be the 150 IQ, can't tell left from right until 14, and I have a coping skill of a 4-year-old. Let's go. That's the best cognitive profile you can ever imagine. It's the most wacky one, right? So now that we have, so my standard score was a 67 in socialization, which was my worst composite score, with a confidence interval of 63 to 71. So my confidence interval stretches from below the first percentile to the second percentile. So what does this mean? I have a percentile rank of 1 on socialization. It means that I am worse at socializing and social skills than 99% of American peers my age. So I am in the bottom 1% in terms of social skills and socialization. So I have apparently a very significant impairment in that. So where does this get us? Where does the full-scale IQ picture come from? Well, in this test, it's called the Adaptive Behavior Composite, which takes a look at the communication, the daily living skills, and the socialization. And I scored a 75. Now, it has a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 15. So I scored in the bottom 5%. I'm in the 5th percentile in terms of overall functioning compared to adults my age. So now that we have a clear picture of, I'm going to go into some other scores. So adaptive level, high is 130 to 140. This would be your very superior people that are able to adapt to the world, that are able to thrive on it personally. Then you have moderately high at 115 to 129, adequate at 86 to 114, moderately low at 71 to 85, and low at 20 to 70. So that's your extremely low category, like very, very impacted. So let's see here. I might go over what I answered, but basically, so what did I get? So I want to, let's see, does it have this? Where is it? I want to go over some of my other scores here. Let's see here. Okay, so then the maladaptive behavior scales. So maladaptive meaning that it's like a variety of mental conditions, mental affects. So internalizing would be like a lot of self-doubt, hate, depression, anxiety, things like that. Externalizing would be like you throw things or you hurt people or whatever. So internalize, or you have a temper tantrum. So I got a V-scale score of 22, which is above 2 standard deviations above the mean. It's in the 99th percentile on internalizing. So that what that means is that when it comes to anxiety, depression, kind of problems, like a bunch of neuroticism, basically, internalized neuroticism, internalized fear, internalized hate, internalized depression, anxiety, all that, I scored in above 99% of people. And externalizing, I scored a V-scale score of 19. And what that means is that I scored above, around the top 5 to 10%. So these would be like temper tantrums and things of that nature, which kind of contribute to that level 2 ASD profile that I was talking about. So yeah, so like top 5 to 10% in externalizing and well above the 99th percentile for internalizing. So those aren't good either. Those are very elevated scores. Now let's go to the final interpretation. The Vineland 3 measures adaptive behaviors, which are things that people need to do to function in their everyday lives. These important everyday behaviors can be grouped into the broad areas of communication, practical living skills, and relating to other people. The specific behaviors that are needed to change as a child grows over, whatever. It can be used on adults. So my results were compared to a norm sample, These labels below describe my standing in the 3 broad areas described above, plus an overall summary score. So communications skills, I was at the very cutoff for adequate. Very, very cutoff. I scored an 86, and the cutoff is an 86. I've explained why I think my communication is a bit lower than 86. It's because it doesn't really measure the difficulty and kind of structure of words, for example. So I scored adequate by 0 points. Like, I was literally at the cutoff. The next category below would be moderately low. So we're going to consider it for all things included. We're going to say moderately low to adequate in communication skills. So like kind of borderline functioning. Daily living skills, I got moderately low in that. So moderately low in terms of functioning, in terms of kind of lower end of functioning compared to others. Social skills and relationships, low. And in this case, it would be extremely low. Social skills and relationships means that I'm not as advanced in navigating or expressing myself, or, well, not expressing myself, that's communication. I'm not as valid in navigating them or dealing with them as other peers my age. I'm at the first percentile. I'm in the bottom 1% of Americans my age. And then my overall summary score, this is the last score, moderately low. So I'm at a kind of moderate level of functioning overall, and this kind of confirms why I've been talking so much about ASD level 2 and why I do not believe I'm level 1. This was a very comprehensive assessment. It seems to me that there were over 150 questions here. There were over 150 questions here, and then there were even more with the maladaptive behaviors. So, yeah, this is not a good profile. I mean, I scored first percentile in socialization skills, which are equivalent to a preschooler or even an elementary schooler. Communication, I scored the highest composite. Daily living skills, I'm kind of equivalent to maybe a teenager or even lower than that. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching. I'm going to be discussing these results with a provider, and I'll probably have to go on Social Security. I'm not going to fucking lie. How I made it through almost 3 years of college in statistics and a STEM degree, I don't know, but I did. So I'll probably try to finish up my STEM degree. I'm going to go back next spring, which is about a year from now, and try to finish it up. But for now, I have all these interesting results, and I just shared it to you. I'm going to be the next meme in the Sword Fights in the Heights community. Everybody's going to be making fun of me, which I don't care, right? The only time that I cared about it was when I was going to leave Sword Fights in the Heights Legends anyway, because I was feeling very suicidal, but that had nothing to do with the people there anyway. So, anyways, see you all.